She didn't run away with her belongings. She ran away with the illusion that no one would notice. But he did, in the reclined passenger seat, in the warmth of the still glowing heater, in the smile that came a little too easily. She thought she was playing a secret game. He realized he was witnessing a repeat of his own past mistake, and chose not forgiveness, but precision. While she laughed with another man, he created a fake job offer. While she snuck off to the motel, he was planting cameras. And when she came home, still convinced her secret was safe, he already knew everything. She begged for forgiveness. He offered reality, curt, cold, documented. And when she was left on the floor, surrounded by shattered dreams and a ruined career, he walked away, not in rage, but in silence. A silence that echoed louder than any scream. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So let's get started. The first warning sign wasn't a lipstick stain or a whispered conversation behind a closed door. It was something far more ordinary, and precisely because of that, infinitely more dangerous. On a frigid January morning, Liam Caldwell stood in the entryway, forcing thick socks into stiff winter boots. His breath fogged in the icy air, and a thin sheen of frost sparkled on the front steps outside. He pulled his coat around him and called up the staircase. "Julia, I'm off to get the tires swapped. Need me to pick anything up?" Her voice floated down, muffled but casual. "All good, babe." A small grin tugged at his lips. After 6 years of marriage, 2 lively children, and a snug little house nestled in the suburbs of Denver, they seemed like a textbook happy family. Liam had poured himself into their world, laying each emotional foundation with care. Before stepping out, he touched his gloved fingers to his mouth and blew a kiss toward the upstairs hall where she was likely getting ready. The Honda Pilot, silver, reliable, Julia's favorite, waited in the driveway with its engine quietly humming. Liam slid into the driver's seat and laughed softly at the seat heater cranked to max. She always forgot to dial it back. Changing the tires wasn't thrilling, but doing these little things grounded him in their life, their routine. When he returned a couple hours later, Julia was already at the door, dressed and cheerful. Her glossy brown hair framed her face as it fell neatly over her coat. "Heading to the mall," she said brightly, slinging her purse over one shoulder. "Need anything?" He shook his head, watching her float by, light as air. "Try not to max out the credit card," he teased. She chuckled, brushed a kiss across his cheek, and stepped outside. It was a feather-light touch, hurried, distracted. When the door clicked behind her, silence followed. Liam noticed, but didn't dwell on it. He trusted her. He dropped onto the couch, turned on the game, and let the stillness wash over him. Yet a persistent thought gnawed at the edge of his peace, something too vague to name but too present to ignore. Later, recalling he might have left his sunglasses in her SUV, he went outside to check. The instant he opened the door, a ripple of something cold ran through him. The passenger seat heater was glowing, still radiating warmth, and the seat reclined. Legroom stretched far back. Someone had been there. His stomach clenched. Julia never used that heater when she drove by herself, and she certainly never adjusted the seat that way. Being small, she always pulled it forward, not the opposite. He hovered over the center console, his heart kicking up a storm. "Don't overreact," he told himself. "Just breathe." He closed the door and headed back inside, sunglasses completely forgotten. Julia was in the kitchen, softly humming while she rinsed a mug in the sink. "Hey," Liam said, trying to sound casual despite the thudding in his chest. "Did you run into anyone today?" A beat passed, barely noticeable, but it was there. Then she replied, "What? No, just me." "Thought maybe you met up with someone," he said with a strained laugh. "Nope, solo outing," she replied, her voice unnaturally chipper. Too fast, too practiced. He smiled and placed a kiss on her hair. Then, mumbling something about needing to organize tools, he retreated to the basement. The dusty air and scent of turpentine wrapped around him as he finally let the feeling break through. Was it happening? Was she doing what he once did? He remembered. Oh, he remembered. Years ago, in his early 20s, married to Ava, a woman who had loved him without condition, Liam had thrown it all away for a meaningless office affair. He hadn't been searching for anything in particular. Just careless, foolish. Ava hadn't found out through texts or secret meetings. No, it was the subtle shifts that gave him away. Missed anniversaries, withdrawn silences, unnecessary anger. She'd believed in him, until suddenly she didn't. When she confronted him, he lied, repeatedly, until the night she laid a plain manila envelope on the table. Inside, photographs, receipts, irrefutable proof. Her gaze held no fury, only a hollow sadness. Their marriage crumbled in that silence. Liam left, started anew, reinvented himself. When Julia entered his life, he vowed to never repeat those mistakes. He swore he'd never become that man again. But now, alone in a quiet basement lined with old paint cans and rusting tools, Liam recognized the cues. Every sign rang clear. Only this time, he wasn't the one hiding something. That night, he studied her. The restless movements, the quick glances at her phone beneath the table, the slight jolt whenever he walked into a room. Something wasn't right. Not even close. The next morning, they sat across from each other at the kitchen table while their kids, Owen and Sophie, giggled over pancakes and cartoons, lost in their own innocent world. Liam sipped his coffee slowly, eyes fixed on Julia. She looked up and smiled, too fast, too polished, and the smile, it never touched her eyes. She laughed, just a bit too loud, a little too sharp, and when their gazes locked, something shuddered behind her eyes, withdrawn, guarded, something hidden. An unspoken truth. There was a quiet rot between them now, invisible but expanding. A chill ran through Liam, the kind that settles deep in the bones. He needed clarity. He couldn't keep acting like everything was fine. Not after the person he'd worked so hard to become. By the time Monday rolled around, the unease had grown unbearable. Liam sat slouched at his desk at a small marketing agency tucked into a bustling Denver street, staring blankly at a spreadsheet that hadn't changed in hours. The office buzzed with its usual rhythm, chatter, ringing phones, the ping of emails. But he was somewhere else entirely, trapped, replaying the flicker of doubt on Julia's face. That strange silence in the car. Her laughter had changed, just subtly enough to haunt him. It gnawed at him like an itch under the skin. When noon came, he skipped the usual group taco run and wandered into a dim cafe a few blocks from the office. Choosing a secluded booth, he slid into the seat and pulled out his phone. His pulse quickened as he scrolled through listings for private investigators. One name made him pause. Is this really what I'm about to do? He thought of Owen's wide smile, of Sophie's tiny fingers curled around his in sleep, of the life they'd built, and Julia, the woman who used to be his safe place, the woman he thought he knew. If there was even a sliver of truth to his suspicion, he couldn't turn away from it. He had to face it. He tapped on the number for Seth Ratcliffe Investigations and sent a brief, no-nonsense message. Need to talk. Urgent. Confidential. The reply came just 5 minutes later, 3 p.m. Rear entrance. No names. Liam stared at the screen, sweat collecting in his palms. This was real now. At exactly 3, he parked a short distance away and made his way on foot toward a plain gray building crammed between a narrow alley and a deserted diner. No signs. No windows, just a metal door and a buzzer. He pressed it, his hand unsteady. The door creaked open to reveal a man in his 40s, solidly built, wearing a weathered leather jacket and jeans. His eyes were sharp, the kind that missed nothing. "You're Caldwell?" the man asked, glancing at a clipboard. "That's right," Liam replied, glancing over his shoulder. "Don't worry," the man said. "Nobody's watching. Come on in." Inside, the air smelled faintly of stale coffee and old carpet. A fan buzzed in the corner, sending papers rustling across a battered desk. "I'm Seth," the man said, offering his hand. It was firm, grounded. "Want to give me the rundown, or should I guess?" Liam exhaled, his voice coarse. "It's my wife, Julia. I think she's keeping something from me." Seth nodded, not surprised, not judging. "You're not crazy," he said evenly. "Gut feelings matter, people lie, patterns don't." A weight settled in Liam's chest like a stone. "Let's start at the beginning," Seth said, flipping open a notebook. Liam told him everything. The shopping trip, the strange stillness on the drive home, her changed demeanor. He even confessed past mistakes, afraid maybe this was his past coming back to collect. Seth listened, expression unreadable, jotting notes now and then. When Liam finished, Seth leaned back in his chair. "Here's the deal," he said. "Surveillance takes time and people. I'll need $5,000 up front. I'll assign 2 guys to follow her. Quiet. Professional. If there's something going on, we'll uncover it. If not, you walk away with peace of mind. Either way, you get answers." Liam hesitated only briefly before reaching for his checkbook. Some truths were worth the cost. Some wounds only healed once they were exposed. That night, dinner felt like a performance. Julia spoke with bright energy about her day, every word polished. Owen burst into giggles over his spaghetti. Sophie scrawled happy shapes with a red crayon. Liam sat still, out of place in his own kitchen. He watched Julia lean over to wipe sauce from Sophie's chin, her smile soft and motherly, and wondered, "How long have you been pretending?" 3 days later, his phone buzzed. It was Seth. "I've got something," he said. "You need to see this." Liam drove over in a daze, heart hammering in his chest like a drumbeat. Back in the office, Seth opened a video file on an aging laptop. Liam leaned in. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Julia. No mistaking her, sitting in a booth at Pier 19, the seafood spot they used to go to for anniversaries. Seated across from her was someone Liam immediately recognized. Caleb Maddox. Her boss, tall, confident, charming in that too smooth way. "Just a friend," she always said. The video showed them leaning in close, their meals barely touched. Their hands met, once, then again. She laughed, that new laugh, just a touch too eager. Then Caleb reached across the table, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Julia blushed, and she didn't stop him. Liam's hands clenched into fists. "This was Tuesday," Seth said. "She told you she had a late meeting. There's more. Calls. Texts. Want the rest?" Liam didn't answer. He didn't need to. The truth was already screaming. "We can go further." Liam sank into the cushions, his chest tight with a quiet, gnawing emptiness. "I don't need to see more," he murmured, voice dry and cracked. But he was lying, to himself most of all. Betrayal doesn't strike like a single blow. It infiltrates, slow and cruel, like a swarm of tiny cuts unnoticed until the pain has soaked through every layer of you. At first light the next day, Liam was already up. He packed the kids' lunches, laid out their clothes, and kissed Julia goodbye with a calm, practiced smile as she stepped out the door. To the outside world, he looked like the ideal husband. Inside, he was a battlefield of emotion. The pain hadn't paralyzed him. It had focused him, sharpened his intent. He would make her regret mistaking his silence for surrender. The hardest part wasn't the pretending. It was waking up beside her, watching her move through their home, watching her laugh with their children, wondering how much of it had ever been genuine. That week, Liam moved through the house like a ghost. He zipped jackets, tied shoelaces, fixed the porch light with Julia, and waved to the neighbors like nothing had changed. But something inside him had hardened, taken shape. He wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. He was crafting something more deliberate, something she wouldn't forget. If Julia had forgotten what fidelity looked like, Liam would deliver a lesson she would never be able to erase. On Thursday night, after the kids had fallen asleep, he sat alone under the dim flicker of a lamp. The grandfather clock ticked in the silence. Heart hammering, he opened his laptop and created a new email account under the name Michael Graves. Then he began typing. Subject: Career Advancement Opportunity. Body: Dear Julia, we've been following your impressive achievements at Crescent Marketing. A new senior-level opening has become available at a rapidly expanding boutique firm moving into the Denver area. The position is highly confidential. Kindly respond if you'd like to learn more. He included a meticulously crafted LinkedIn profile for Michael Graves, legitimate-looking experience, glowing references, a sleek website, and a list of fictitious but impressive clients. He drew a slow breath and clicked Send. Then he leaned back and stared at the ceiling, listening to the echo of the decision he had just made. The next evening, Julia stood at the stove, stirring a pot of pasta. Liam watched from the doorway. Her gaze lingered on her phone. A subtle smile formed on her lips, one she didn't try to explain. She said nothing. She didn't need to. The bait had landed. Meanwhile, Seth continued feeding Liam updates. More photos, more audio, more evidence. This wasn't just a casual lunch with Caleb Maddox anymore. Twice, Seth's team had followed them leaving a hotel, each time 20 minutes apart. No bags, no excuses. They hadn't gotten footage inside, but Liam no longer needed it. The truth wasn't hiding anymore. It was brazen. She still wore his ring, but she had left him long ago. And as for Caleb, he wasn't walking away untouched. A week later, Julia sat at the kitchen table, her hands clenched around a printout. "Liam," she said, stunned, "you're not going to believe this. I just got offered a new job." He raised his eyebrows, playing along. "Seriously," she continued, her face flushed with excitement. "Senior strategist. Twice my current pay. Apparently they've been watching me for a while." Liam smiled, smooth and steady. "Looks like your talent's finally getting noticed." She grinned and tucked the email into her purse. The trap had been sprung. That weekend, Liam went all in. He told her he'd planned a special anniversary getaway, just the two of them. A private mountain cabin complete with a hot tub, wine tastings, and postcard-perfect views. He told her it was time to reconnect. She didn't hesitate. She said yes. But Julia didn't know that Seth's team had already combed through the cabin. Cameras were hidden in plain sight, microphones in the vents, GPS embedded in their rental car. Liam wasn't going to explode. He wouldn't raise his voice. He was going to let her expose herself, inch by inch, without even realizing it. By Friday morning, she was buzzing with energy as she packed her bag, carefully chosen outfits, elegant makeup, lace lingerie. But Liam knew what really lit that fire. It wasn't love. It was the burner phone tucked in the side pocket of her purse, the one Seth's guy had cloned days ago. Liam had already read every message. He doesn't suspect a thing. "I'll sneak out after dinner. Meet me at Ridgeview Motel." He'd memorized those words. Her lies, her betrayal, and still, he said nothing. They arrived at the cabin mid-afternoon. The sky was a warm blaze of color, painting the trees in golden light that felt almost artificial in its beauty. Julia was affectionate, clingy even. She kissed his neck, toasted wine glasses, laughed a little too loudly at his jokes. But Liam saw it for what it was, guilt dressed up as romance. He knew the difference. He played along, smiling, drinking, telling stories. Each time her phone buzzed, he caught the flicker in her eyes, the brief tremor in her grin. Around 9, she stretched and yawned. "I'm beat," she said gently, almost rehearsed. "It's just been one of those days," she murmured, stretching dramatically, her faux fatigue exaggerated. "Mind if I call it an early night?" Liam returned her gaze with a gentle smile. "Not at all. Get some sleep." She leaned in, pressed a kiss against his cheek, and vanished down the corridor. Precisely 6 minutes later, Liam stood silently by the upstairs window, observing as Julia slipped out the back door. Her car's headlights cut briefly through the darkness before fading from view. With a quiet sigh, he returned to his seat, sinking into the familiar creak of the leather armchair, whiskey glass in hand. Outside, Seth's team was already following her. Every inch of the house was under surveillance. The cameras missed nothing. Julia thought she was being discreet, stealing away one more time for the thrill of forbidden passion. But she'd find Liam gone upon her return, taking with him everything she once believed she had. The snare was perfectly positioned, the bait expertly laid. The front door groaned open well after midnight. Liam didn't move from his place in the softly lit living room. The amber light from a single lamp spilled across the floorboards. He didn't need to look to know who had entered. Her perfume announced her presence even before the sound of her uneven breaths reached him. Julia crept inside, heels dangling from one hand, her hair a tousled mess, lipstick smeared. She clutched her coat tight, like it could shield her from the truth. She looked around warily, convinced the house was asleep, certain her secret had remained buried, certain she'd pulled it off. "Did you enjoy your drive?" Liam's voice came low and even from the shadows. Julia froze mid-step. Her handbag slipped from her grip, landing with a dull thud. Her head snapped toward him, wide-eyed, her lips parting in silent panic. I couldn't sleep," she stammered. "I needed to clear my mind. Just went out for a bit." Liam stood slowly, every movement controlled. He crossed the room and extended his phone to her. The screen lit up, playing silent footage. Julia pulling up to the Ridgeview Motel. Julia unlocking room 12. Julia stepping inside, greeted by Caleb Maddox, smiling, laughing, vanishing behind the door. "You looked pretty at ease for someone just trying to clear her mind," Liam said, his tone suddenly sharp and precise. Her face cracked. "Liam, please," she whispered, tears already forming. "It's not what you think." "It never is," he replied flatly. "So, tell me, was that the first time? Or maybe the second? Or are we past the point of keeping track?" Her legs gave out, and she collapsed to her knees, sobbing. "It was a mistake," she choked out. "It didn't mean anything, it just happened." He gave a humorless laugh. "Didn't mean anything?" he echoed, the words tasting bitter. "You just threw away 6 years of marriage, 2 kids, and a life we built? Over nothing?" She crawled toward him, hands trembling, face wet with tears. "I never meant for it to go that far," she cried. "You've been so distant lately. Always working. Always tired." "And this," he said, thrusting the phone toward her again, "was your answer to that?" She collapsed fully at his feet, forehead pressed to his shoes. "Please," she begged, "don't walk away from us. I'll end it. I'll get help. Quit my job. I'll do anything, just don't tear our family apart." Liam looked down at her in silence. This was the woman he had trusted his life with, the woman he had dreamed and planned and built a future beside. The same woman who had been willing to risk it all for a few fleeting moments in a cheap motel room. He crouched, took her chin in his hand, and forced her to meet his eyes. His voice dropped to a whisper, cold and cutting. "You don't get to smash something and still expect to keep the pieces." He released her and stepped away. Then he delivered the final blow. "I've known for 2 weeks," he said. "The seat in your car was off. The heater left running. You told me you were shopping, but brought home nothing. No bags, no receipts, just stories, dinner plans, strange calls." Julia's sobs intensified. "I watched you sneak. I listened to you lie. I even found the lingerie you stashed behind your winter coats." Her face drained of all color. "You really thought you were clever enough to juggle both lives," he said. "Smart enough to stay hidden." From inside his jacket, he pulled out a thick envelope and dropped it onto the coffee table. Inside, surveillance stills from the motel, screenshots of burner phone messages, bank statements showing hidden withdrawals, her double life, printed and cataloged. "I've already talked to a lawyer," Liam said coolly. "This place? The deeds in my name alone. The house? Bought before we ever tied the knot. The prenup? Still legally binding." Julia stared at him, hollow and stunned. "You'll leave with your car, your wardrobe, and scheduled visits. That's it." Her lips trembled. "Liam, please, don't do this." "You already did," he said. "The second you stepped into that motel room." He turned to leave. "And by the way," he added, pausing in the doorway, "you're free to be with Caleb now." A faint, icy smile touched his lips. "Best of luck. HR is already investigating him for harassment." Anonymous tips had been pouring into HR nonstop for days. Julia collapsed to the floor, her sobs muffled by the carpet fibers beneath her. She stayed there, unmoving. Liam never once turned around. Without hesitation, he stepped into the frigid night, his figure quickly consumed by darkness. Above him, the stars pierced the sky like shards of ice. Each breath cut into his lungs with winter's edge, but for the first time in ages, he could finally breathe. Liam didn't reserve a hotel. He didn't call a friend. Instead, he drove for 2 solitary hours, heading back to Denver. Eventually, he found himself in a lonely diner with flickering lights. There, he sat quietly, sipping harsh black coffee while dawn crept over the horizon. That chapter, the one that had defined him for so long, was now closed, and buried beneath its collapse was the faint promise of a fresh start. One rooted in strength, not illusion. Word spread swiftly. By Monday morning, Julia's name had become a murmured refrain in the corridors of Crescent Marketing, whispered not with admiration, but in uncertain tones. HR had launched an official inquiry into Caleb Maddox. Footage from Ridgeview Motel had surfaced. Someone had compiled every flirty message Caleb had exchanged with colleagues. When Julia was called in for questioning, she broke. She confessed to the affair, to the hidden meetings, to the dishonesty. Caleb was terminated immediately. Julia was placed on indefinite suspension pending further action. Back at their apartment, Liam moved deliberately, packing his things with quiet resolve. Julia stayed holed up in their bedroom, her crying relentless and jagged. She tried calling him. She sent messages, apologies, pleas, desperate attempts to explain. Liam never answered. He wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't even heartbroken. He was free. The divorce papers arrived on Thursday, neat, unemotional, final. Julia didn't fight it. She signed without delay. She knew there was nothing left to salvage. Life went on. Liam rented a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. It wasn't flashy, but it was filled with light and calm. On weekends, he spent time with Owen and Sophie. They giggled. They played. They thrived. Liam made sure they carried none of the burden, none of the bitterness. They were innocent and deserved to be protected from their mother's chaos. One damp Sunday, rain streaking the cafe windows, Liam sat alone with a coffee, watching the blur of passing cars. His phone buzzed. A message from Seth. Caleb's being charged. Julia's out. I told you, truth has a way of surfacing. Liam allowed himself a small smile. Not out of revenge, but because justice sometimes arrives in whispers, not roars. By the time spring softened the air, Liam had met someone new. Her name was Emily. She worked as a teacher. Her voice was calm, her eyes honest. She had no hidden layers. They took their time. Liam wasn't rushing into anything. But when Emily smiled, open and without pretense, something inside him stirred. He realized something vital. Not everyone betrays. Not everyone disappears. Some people stay. Some people build slowly, carefully, laying each stone with intention. That night, as the city lights shimmered around him, Liam rolled down his window while driving. Cool air swept in, brushing across his skin. Behind him lay betrayal, grief, silence. Ahead, only the road. And this time, he was never looking back. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you?